Hey guys, it's Ryan from Motorcycle.com. We're out here in beautiful Big Bear, California to test the Honda CRF250L Rally, the CSC RXR, and the Kawasaki versys-x 300. We might be doing a little bit more than the average user will, but we want to show how capable these bikes are, not only from what they can do on the trail, but also they're a low price point, and you can come out here close to your home and have a great adventure. We rode up yesterday to Big Bear, spent some time on the street and the freeway with all three of these bikes. Surprisingly, I think they weren't that bad on the freeway on the way here. I think the CSC had some moving around issues. What did you guys think of the bikes you were riding?
I had the CRF on the freeway, and after riding all three of them, I think it was definitely the most stable. It went wherever you pointed it. The soft suspension really just soaked everything up really nicely.
I think pretty clearly the Kawasaki's the one, if you're going to do more road work, more freeway stuff. The vibrates a little bit less because it's a twin. It has a little bit more wind protection, doesn't it? And yeah, I think the Kawasaki's the clear freeway, if that's what you're.
Yeah, the seating position, the lack of any vibration, I think definitely makes the Kawasaki, I feel safe saying, the winner on the street portion of the test.
And it also had the most like balanced and firm at the same time suspension going through the curves and whatnot. You know, you didn't get any sort of, you know, unrest or wobble, and you could really hold your line and, you know, follow through with your arc a lot better than the other two.
Yeah, and I think the Honda, although it felt really good on the freeway and whatnot, once you got into some of the tighter, twisty roads, you started feeling how soft the suspension was, and it was really kind of wallowing. The fact that the bike is light, it's 340 pounds, and it's skinny and tall doesn't really make that big of a difference on the freeway, which was a little surprising to me. I think overall the CSC did have some weird handling characteristics, but at 3,500, I don't think that they were that bad to completely dismiss the bike.
Yeah, it doesn't really leave too much room for complaining at that price point.
Yeah, because the Honda's closer to 6,000, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 5,900.
And they made close to the same power on the dyno too, didn't they? The Honda and the.
Yeah, they're almost 2 horsepower. Right?
Yeah, just over 20. What was it? Just over, like almost 21 and almost 22 for the CSC and Honda respectively.
Yeah, so really close. The horsepower numbers, of course, on the bigger 296cc Kawasaki made just over 34 horsepower, so quite a bit more. You could feel it on the freeway, I think.
Yeah, the one place you could definitely feel it was, you know, on the freeway and just longer straights. There's just more to play with. But any three of them, as long as you keep them spinning, you know, on the gas, they're happy to move along just fine.
The brakes on the CSC, the front brakes, take quite a bit of squeezing on the street to get things slowed down, but I think the Kawasaki and the Honda have pretty solid brakes for the kind of bikes they are.
The seats, I thought the Honda had by far the most comfy seat, whether it be on or off-road, long distance, in or around town, followed by the CSC. It touched your curves just right, whereas the Kawasaki was, you know, even though it's the most, you know, streetable bike of the three, I think we can agree, it had by far the hardest seat, which, you know, wasn't terrible, but it was noticeable over the other two.
There was a clear winner off-road, and we'll get to that. You probably already know, but we had a lot of fun on all the bikes. For me, the seating position on the Kawasaki being the most ergonomic for the street kind of made it feel awkward off-road, you know, with the bend of the handlebar and whatnot.
The Kawasaki definitely had the narrowest bars of the three.
It's not bad standing up, I don't think, but
it wasn't too narrow by any means, but jumping off of either the CSC or the Honda onto the Kawasaki, immediately you could feel like, oh, okay, this is just a little bit more narrow. But yeah, as soon as you're standing up and moving along, it made no difference.
Yeah.
I thought the Kawasaki did pretty good off-road for being the best street bike. For me, who's not that expert, I didn't really have any big problem with the Kawasaki. And for a poor man's adventure bike, it seems like if you wanted to, you could put a little bit wider handlebar. It's got kind of the streetiest tires. And we were kind of thinking you could get some of the more, what's the popular?
TKC?
The TKC 80s, the Continentals, that everybody puts on those kind of bikes. And the main gripe with those, right, is that they don't last very long. But on a bike with 34 horsepower, they might last a while. And then you'd have a pretty cool off-road bike, I bet, you know?
Yeah, pretty much everywhere we took these bikes, they made it, you know, put it, you know, simply. We didn't do anything too crazy, you know, we weren't climbing 200-foot sandhills or anything like that. They went wherever we wanted them to, you know, down the fire roads, through like little rock sections, through sand. It was, they all made it just fine, just chugged right through.
I wanted to say, after our last big enduro shootout with the big heavy bikes that we did last year, with like bikes with 6-foot seat heights that weighed 800 pounds, riding these little ones, my faith's kind of restored now, you know, because I got stuck a couple times because I'm not that great off-road. But I never toppled over, you know. Anytime I got stuck, I could put my foot down and go, oh, and extricate myself.
Yeah, and the bikes were light enough that, you know, if you had to put a foot down like mid-turn or something, you know, you could easily right itself or right yourself.
Exactly. They're not as sophisticated as the big, expensive off-enduro, what are the dual sports. But they get the job done, and they'll get you anywhere on a fire road, I think.
If you want to do, you know, I want to say light off-roading, but I feel like what we did today was more, you know, more than just light off-roading. You know, the trails that we hit, you know, I mean, there was guys, you know, rock crawling in Jeeps, and there was also other guys on dirt bikes.
As experts, you guys both kind of don't like the CSC so much, but me at a lower level, that thing worked pretty good for me. $3,500 when I was a kid, or somebody who wanted to maybe sample adventure riding without making a big investment. For $3,500, I don't think I was okay on it. And it's got the lowest seat, I think. I got
definitely
stuck the least on it of any of them.
Once we adjusted the rear suspension on it too, from being all the way stiff to giving it a little bit more movement, it felt a lot better through the rockier sections for sure.
My biggest gripe with the CSC as far as options go, being an adventure bike, it would be nice if there was some sort of a rack or even something to like kind of anchor, you know, straps to.
Anything at all.
Which, you know, I guess it comes as an option, but it not on the RXR, but the RX3, correct?
Yeah, I think it does have the rack. There's a huge list of options, upgrades for that bike, including rear shocks and everything. But it would have been nice to see kind of a standardized, just a place to hook some, like a bungee net. And the RXR that we have here didn't have that.
I think the RX3 is only like $3,800.
Right. Yeah.
The big thing about the CSC for me is like my first impression getting on it, I wasn't a fan, but it kept up with, you know, the other two Japanese bikes just fine. So $3,500, you know, versus
$5,900 for the Honda, and then $57 for the Cowie.
You know, there's a big difference there, but, you know, in price, but in performance, in real everyday performance, it really kind of holds its own for being that much cheaper.
Yeah, I think moving towards, like, to talk about the Honda a little bit more, the Honda is completely set up to be an off-road bike. It doesn't have the peppy engine of an actual CRF, you know, moto bike. It does have, 11 inches of travel in the front suspension, like 10.3 in the rear. It came with 21-inch front tire, 18-inch rear tire, whereas the CSC had 18 and 17, and then the Cowie had a 19 and 17. There's a few upgrades with the Honda Rally from the normal CRF250L, and it's like a bigger tank, more suspension travel, things that will be good off-road. But I think the biggest ding on the Honda is the fact that the suspension's really soft and it's not adjustable. That being said, it soaked up rocks, and Brent proved that it did just fine off-road today.
It did really well off-road. I was actually surprised. I ride motocross with, you know, much stiffer suspension, and this thing, I mean, it floated over almost everything. The big rocks, the little choppy stuff, I mean, it went where you pointed it, which was, for a 250, you know, it was a pleasure to ride for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you do want to plan ahead because it's only got a 2.7 gallon gas tank compared to 4.2 and 4.5 of the other ones. So make sure you've got that in the back of your mind.
Well, you won't know which one wins until we fill out the
scorecard.
The scorecard.
Which we will be doing after we make our slog back down the mountain and through the Los Angeles traffic.
So based off your impressions of the three bikes over the last couple days, what do you guys think, what would you take home?
I'd probably go with the versys-x. That's just me.
I think I would go for the more off-road worthy Honda.
I'm with Ryan. I would definitely go with the Honda. In my opinion, it does everything just as good, if not better, than the rest of the two on the street. And then it just kind of outshines the other two off-road.
Which one would you take home if you only had 3,500 bucks?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to do some scheming and dealing. I don't know.
So for the full write-up, pictures, dyno chart, specs, all that, we're going to have it at Motorcycle.com. If you like the video, like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching.